Morning, everyone. Welcome to Talking Horses, presented by Saratoga Springwater. Chris Griffin making a return appearance in the show. I'm Andy Serling. 11 race card. You excited?
Of course.
You ready?
Fired up.
All right, let's get right to work.
Woke up bright and early. Ready. I'm ready.
Really? It is bright and early right now, in fact. I don't feel particularly woken up yet. But anyway, we'll get there sometime during the show. Head over to Naira Bets. If you're not a member, use the promo code CUP25. Your cup floweth over with an extra $25 free bet along with a $200 sign-up bonus. We'll match for $200 your initial deposit. Head over to Naira Bets. If you're not a member of Naira Bets, no better time than the present. And, you know, this is never going to stop being exciting. I don't know if you guys know it, but there's a middle pick four today. We've got three today. I don't know if you're aware of this yet, but there's a middle pick four. There's also three pick fives, by the way, the 4 through 8 pick five. We have them in 11 race cards. That is a mandatory payout, as it always is in the middle pick fives. Don't have them too often. Of course, tomorrow will be mandatory payouts because it's the end of the Belmont at the Big A meet, the meet you all love. You all love. Anyway, what else? $25 bonus. Does not involve Assiniboia. Chris is very upset about that. $100 each on Belmont, Keeneland, and Horseshoe Indy. You get $25 back, win or lose, $100 or more. Closing day at Keeneland as well today. A lot of closings going on. We have the show is at noon to 5:30. Covering all the action here, 11 race, exciting card, 4 stake races. Then 9 to 12 tonight, covering more of the Breeders' Crown races from, is that in something, Indiana?
Indiana.
Chris,
you're asking me for the town?
Chris very excited.
You're asking me for the town?
Chris was giving me a recap of the events in the show I missed last night.
It was a fun broadcast.
Well, I'm sure it was while I was suffering through the disgraceful officiating down in Dallas in the Nets game. Anyhow, race number 1, let's get right to business. Go ahead on Beery Funny.
Barry Funny.
Barry Funny.
Got to be Barry Funny.
I think it is Barry.
Yeah. So
I'm barely awake.
Yeah, 7 to 5 on the morning line. So it's boring going with the favorite. Now showing 8 to 5. You know, at 6.5 furlongs, I just kept going through here.
I don't think we're
yeah, but so Refua,
2 hours.
Too many chances. I got to play Refua underneath. Vaunted. I'm turf to dirt angle. Just again does not work for me.
Well, wait a second. Wait a second. I don't like Vaunted either. But let's show the dirt race from Vaunted 2 races back. I mean, to be fair, Source did lose by 2 lengths in the dirt to Lock and Key, who came back to win. So I'm not sure that they've just been running this horse mostly on the wrong surface.
Okay.
Because this race is far and away the best race Vaunted's run. I don't particularly like Vaunted either. You've got him 4th. I don't even have him 4th. But I'm not sure that they've just been wrong running him on the turf 3 times.
Yep, but they wanted to run on turf at Saratoga those 2 times.
I get it. I get it. I think they may be wrong. I think they might be finally running the race that he belongs in.
So just saying, okay, this is a dirt horse and we've got to run on the dirt.
Yeah, I mean, I'm not in love with him, but I just, you know, he did run a decent. I mean, this dirt race is, from a Beyer speed figure standpoint, it's faster than any Beyer speed figure anyone's run except for Refua and equal to the Beyer figure your horse ran. Who is the horse to beat? I don't disagree.
Kendrick Carmouche is going to be aboard here for the first time. He's going to have that outside draw. I think he does ask for a bit more speed. Maybe we see some of that 22 and 2 type early speed here coming on the fast track. But there's just, when you run 5 times, you got a 2nd and a 3rd showing on the record. Yes, maybe the dirt is where they would like to, or where they've landed, and so we got to run the horse here. Prince of Truth I've got in the exacta as the number 5. It's Linda Rice, it's Jose Lezcano, connections that win quite a bit. They come out of that same debut effort for Prince of Truth, which ended up being, you know, the 4th career start for Vaunted. I think Prince of Truth is, what, 6 lengths back there from Vaunted. Vaunted maybe had a little bit of trouble. The price differential would not be good for me right now. I think they're kind of the same. They're the same exact horse.
These La Verdades, unlike her, they have not been able to run. I'm surprised you're as dismissive of the 2 Flying Style as you are. I know the horse fell apart last time involved in the pace, but this horse might have kind of lost it before the race. The races 2 and 3 back are good enough that I think he's dangerous. I've gone a little off the reservation in the first race, and I've taken the first to Escape Key, and not just because he's a half-to-fire Key, who I'm a big fan of. He's also a half-to-Lock and Key, the horse that we mentioned that beat Vaunted 2 races back. So there is plenty of pedigree for this horse, and it's interesting to me that Dylan Davis chooses to ride this one for Jimmy Ryerson as opposed to Vaunted. Now, maybe there's no story. I don't know at all, but it seemed kind of interesting because Vaunted seemed like he made some sense on paper. So I'm guessing with a first-time starter for Jimmy Ryerson, though I think the inside 2 are the horses to beat.
It makes sense to take a look at a first-time starter in a race like this. The thing about the 2 Flying in Style, trouble in the last 2 starts. Fractious in the gate, stumbled at the break, 2 starts back when beaten favorite at Saratoga going 6 furlongs. For me, a horse that has speed. It seems like speed is going to be the West Whip. I think Flying in Style has to be very forwardly placed. You go with the
Flying
Bug Boy
Style's
and
going to be in
Luis
front
Rivera.
here unless he falls down coming out of the gate.
Yeah, and that has been the trouble in the last 2 starts. Now a layoff is in there. The numbers do come back pretty strong for Charlton Baker as we start
You
to
can call
get.
him Charlie.
I can call him
You're
Charlie?
here now.
Are you sure?
Yes,
All right.
I think Charlie's
I'm
good.
very official
I'm,
initially when I say
Charlie.
Okay, Charlie Baker.
Charlie's our friend. we can
He's
call him by
going
his
to
name.
be 3-1. Probably that 3-1 price holds. Very funny. Whether this horse is a deserving favorite, I think the connections obviously come into play here pretty significantly.
We're going to be here till around 3 this afternoon going through today's card.
Well, I had to
It's
talk
a
about my top
6-horse
pick.
I got it. We heard about it. Oh, go ahead. No, go ahead. I don't want to interrupt. Go again.
Barry Funny will be a very short price, but I think we'll be very happy because Barry Funny wins the
Will he be very, very good to you?
Manny Franco was fantastic, and he's going to be smiling.
Isn't it tied, he and Irad, going into the last weekend? I believe Jose Ortiz is one behind.
Really?
That's what somebody told me.
Mad dash right to the finish.
I agree. Mary Funny makes some sense in here. I don't disagree. Ran well last
But the
time
price.
out.
But the price.
Logical. I'm not sure he's considerably more likely to win than the horse outside of him, but I don't disagree with you.
Okay.
Race number 2. Layoffs, a bit of a story in race number 2, and one of them is the Revenger. And we'll show the Revenger's last race for Chris Engelhardt, a horse that you've picked on top and I've picked second. He could be the speed. He should be the speed, and I think he's dangerous.
Yeah, hasn't run since April. I do like this. The last 2 efforts. I think having those 2 victories, Kendrick Carmouche comes right back. Engelhardt's had a nice meet. You take a look at those 11 starters. Has hit at a high clip. A horse that's got some speed. If speed is doing well early, I'd like to catch some of that early speed early on in the card. Hammer and Armor, this is maybe more of a play against for me, against the 3 as I'm taking it to the 5. But this was a good enough effort for me to open up, win by a couple lengths there off of that voided claim at the $10,000 level. Now comes back at the $10,000 with the time off. And the numbers come back strong for this one, too. So if I get the 2-1, that's great. Probably going to vie for favoritism, most definitely. I could say, depending on how the betting's going, I could see the 5 being maybe a little bit of a shorter price than the 3, maybe.
Yeah, Jeremiah Engelhardt at Naira off of 4 to 8 month layoffs. He's 23% with 43 starters with a 306 ROI, suggesting his horse has caught these layoffs and run. I mean, listen, he was voided claim for 10,000.
Sure.
He's now been off for 6 months, so there are significant questions. But I don't disagree. I think he's kind of the horse to beat. And talking about Hammer and Hammer, we'll show the replay of his last race. In my opinion, now to be fair, Bold Victory, who beat him, did come back to win. He won off the claim in his next start. I still wonder a little bit over the overall quality of this field. It's interesting that Lane Leslie had this horse aggressively ridden, a horse that's normally kind of slow. I don't know how forward he's going to be in this race, but he showed that speed last time, which is unusual. Maybe he'll ride him a bit again today. I tend to agree. Hammer and Hammer is going to beat me in this race. I want other horses.
Yeah, and looking at this effort again, a horse comes from way out of it in Bold Victory
Well, he
that
was
just
one of
runs
the
by him.
favorites.
Yeah, and it wasn't necessarily a case of Hammer and Armor stopping, but now we go down another level. We go down to the 10,000. Rob Falcone, I think you just take a look. Falcone?
Falcone.
Really?
Rob Falcone. You haven't really been calling him Robin Falcone at Monmouth, have
I've been
you?
told by
He's been winning.
2 or 3 people Falcone.
Okay, I've been told it's Falcone, but maybe I'm wrong. I'll ask Rob.
Get on our phones immediately and find out the correct pronunciation.
My friend Rob is listening. Maybe he can text me. But
I will tell you.
I
will
think
tell
it's
you.
Falcone.
Horse names are difficult. Then you get trainer names, and then when you get
I
to
get none of them
then when
right.
you get to the owner names, oh my goodness.
The horse that I'm interested in here is Continental Divide
Okay.
for David Jacobson. I don't pick a lot of Jacobson horses. I find him a very, very hard read. I find his horse's performances awfully random. But he is a horse that's run the turf a couple of times since David's got him. Now, I know he didn't run well in the dirt the first time he ran him, albeit against better horses. But he's got back races that are good enough, particularly going a mile. And I just thought maybe going to turf to dirt, where David has horrendous numbers, he might be a little interesting. I have nothing against the Revenger. I think he makes perfect sense in this race. I didn't want to take him off a layoff. I hear you with my friend's Beer. Pit Boss was down the rail last time, which may not have been the place to be. So I actually prefer him over Hammer and Hammer. But I'm going to go with 2 and 5s in this race.
And I do usually see a $25,000 claiming race. Now you drop into the 10. My friend's Beer, the best running has been a while back in some of the prior form.
his form
Pit
is
Boss is
awful.
kind of hitting that same kind of stride. So you've got horses that are dropping quite a bit. Jacobson dropping a horse from a really high level. I think we've seen that move before. So it's just like you say, it's a little bit of a question mark sometimes as far as how that horse is
I
to
have
run.
no idea with him. I just think he's the most random trainer I've ever seen. His horses run one week, they don't the next.
Sure.
I don't really know. But I know that horse has some good back races, and I was looking for somebody a little bit different than a horse at a short price off a layoff, who I don't disagree with you is the horse to beat. Race number 3 at 1 mile and 3/16 on the turf. In my opinion, there's a horse in this race that is highly unlikely to lose and going to be a very short price. I don't believe that Sacred Rhyme will be the second choice. I believe he'll be the favorite, though I guess with War Officer, with Irad Ortiz taking him, maybe he'll be favored because you lead a goat out there and stick Irad Ortiz in his back, and they'll bet him. The trips are interesting. Yeah, the 5 did break a little slowly, but the reality was that was actually good for him, because this race got pretty heated up front. They were contentious. And I really think that Sacred Rhyme ran remarkably well to only get nailed at the wire for second, because this race just fell apart in the late stages behind the runaway winner. And Sacred Rhyme was wide in both turns, was pressing the pace. War Officer didn't do any running, stayed on the rail, angled out a little bit in the second turn and angled out in the stretch, and was merely picking up pieces. It was also run as it was dry. People may not believe this, it actually rained. You can see it raining at Saratoga. I think this was the only day that it rained, actually, the entire meet. Perfectly timed for the walk home, by the way, because I walked home before this race. I think that Sacred Rhyme is supposed to be about 7-5 in this race or less, and I think on paper this horse is just supposed to win.
All right. I mean, I went with the number 3 in the Jackal, and I'm really taking a look at Swore. I mean, the Swore is in the same running lines as Sacred Rhyme. 2 starts back for Sacred Rhyme, coming out of that effort at Saratoga on July 28th. And then also when you take a look at the Jackal, this horse just finished 4 lengths behind Swore at 1.5 miles over at Kentucky Downs. I think you're going to get a better price with the Jackal. And I think that they're all kind of similar. I just think that they're kind of similar as far as some of the efforts that we've seen. So if the Jackal
what about
and
his
Sacred
races
Rhyme,
2 and 3 back? What do you think of those races?
The Jackal?
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, they're just kind of okay, so-so
they're
efforts,
awful.
but I think that you can say the same thing. Now, program trading is in the running lines for Sacred Rhyme, coming out of that Monmouth race. That was that 3rd place finish on debut, finishing 5 3/4 lengths back. But this horse has not been within 4 or 5 lengths as the winner in those, prior 3 starts, and is going to be a shorter price than the Jackal, who I think has a bit more, obviously has the recency, has run on September 3rd.
Well, let me ask you a question. Where were you on the also eligible that scratched Nostalgic one? The 40 claimer for Todd Pletcher, the 40 maiden claimer. Because he finished just behind the Jackal last time. Isn't it just, in my opinion, the last race was a horrifically bad field. Now, Swore came back and duplicated the figure, losing at 1 mile and 1 3/8 here. And I think actually not hitting the board as a second choice, I want to say. And I'm not convinced that that was a very good race, especially when I see a horse like the Jackal, who ran 2 abysmal races out of town, slow figures, and comes back and just runs that much faster at Kentucky Downs, which to me is like it's like the Las Vegas of racing. What happens at Kentucky Downs stays at Kentucky Downs. Horses run well there, and they can't run anywhere else. They run lousy there, and they're better other places. To me, I don't want a horse. I put him 4th because I just didn't know how to fill it out. I'm going to be very surprised if the 7 doesn't win this race without an incident. I think this horse is an absolute layover cinch in here. To be honest. I could be wrong.
No, of course. I mean,
I don't want Tarigo.
I like the recency with the Jackal. I think these aren't long layoffs that War Officer and Sacred Rhyme are coming off of. And then the wild horse, the wild card in here was you don't see many, the Frankel, the 3-year-old colt by Frankel in the 4 Comanche Peak that I've got placed 4th. But if this horse is a huge, crazy number, I mean, you haven't seen a lot of these horses.
He's 1,000 to 1 shot in this race, the Comanche Peak.
Yeah, but I think that some pedigree up top. I think Great Britain, Armirage is going to be riding too. So
he's not as bad a selection because there is a public handicapper that picked the 8 Pujol. He should have to explain that to his adoring public. Tarigo is a horse that I think is going to take money in here. We'll show his last finish, and actually he got beaten by St. John's, who beat your horse.
Who beat my horse?
Who beat your horse, actually, 2 back. And he ran a bigger figure in here. Tarigo didn't do any running in this race. Another one of those deceptive charts calls. Yes, he was 4 wide in the stretch. Not at the quarter pole, but in the stretch. He was also on the rail for almost the entire race before angling out the 2 path in the stretch and then angling out 4 wide late. This was a gold rail period. He spent most of the race in the rail, and I thought his 2nd place finish was sort of mediocre. And I just don't know if he's a horse that rates to get better with more distance.
Yeah, and
And also under with your horse, the Jackal. Maybe he's better with a little more distance than just a mile and 3/16.
I know. I kind of feel silly if I don't have the 5 included with the 3, the Jackal. If I went 3.974, maybe taking a second glance. I wasn't as high off of that effort. I did like the Jackal. I feel these long distance type races, they're coming out of 1.5-mile races. These are not horses that just have that acceleration in the late
Just check what time it is. Oh, it's 2 o'clock. No, we're good.
Yeah, we got plenty of time.
No, we don't. We have 11 races to talk about, and you're going on and on about the Jackal. I feel like it's. You ever watch West Wing?
Did I watch it?
There's a very funny thing about the Jackal, which West Wing fans, I'm sure, know.
The show, yes. A specific episode, no.
West Wing's one of the greatest shows ever. Big scratch in race 4. The good news for me is I'm already up. I bet $10,000 at 1-9 that Colonel Bowman would be scratched in here. So I'm already up $4,000 for the day. So I've got a little bankroll to play because he was about as big a cinch to scratch as any horse in the history of racing because you just sort of get that feel.
Yep.
This race, to me, is a cluster. You have taken horses, though, that will be forward, and it's probably the right idea.
Yeah. Ortiz Jr., Rad Ortiz Jr. is going to be aboard Sagamore Mischief. He's going to take the ride here for Nate Paul Chatterpaul. First off, the claim number is kind of a small sampling size, but a 6-year-old gelding that is 0 for 2 here over the surface, is 0 for 2 at the distance, does have a second place finish at the distance. The win comes a long time ago, July of 2022. That part is tough, but you get a return winner. And the third place finisher out of that last race at Saratoga, that 7-furlong race, also came back and won. So maybe that race is just live. Maybe Sagamore Mischief just finds the right company in here. It's still at the $40,000 level, so this horse has been running well enough. And then first off the claim, now to see Rad take that mount and be aboard.
Well, he's going to be the favorite now
Yeah.
with a scratch. The
Yeah.
morning line is meaningless in this race.
Sure.
Obviously, Tetsu would not have been even money or anywhere close to it had they known that the 1A, even though David knew that the 2B was going to scratch, it's just nothing he could do in that situation. So Sagamore Mischief will be the favorite. The day I bet Naipaul Chatterpaul is the favorite in the race will be the day when I do that someday, just know it. Just put a stamp on my forehead. Andy has given up.
Okay.
I'm not taking low percentage barns because Irad Ortiz ride him. I don't disagree. The horse is forward. His last race probably wins this race. I have no argument with that. He's the horse to beat on paper. I'm not taking low profile connections because Irad Ortiz is riding them at 7-5. And I think one thing we've learned, and you've been on the show, you were on yesterday, day before, Rajiv being on the show has really seen this. And I don't think he was, he just doesn't pay attention to that level. And he was saying it yesterday. I just had no idea the way they overbet Irad Ortiz. I mean, he was even money on a Chad Brown goat the other day that just can't run at all. And it's just amazing what they do. And they're going to see his horse. He's a horse to beat. He's going to be forward with Magnolia Midnight. I think Magnolia Midnight's very dangerous in here. He lost to a good field last time. I prefer him of the two because at least he ran okay for his new connections, being claimed away from Linda Rice, who's tough to claim from. And Look at Roses is a win machine from out of town, even won a race here. So I have no problem with them. They're going to be forwardly placed. I just don't really want them because I just don't trust how well they're going to do off the claim. So Silly Key. He has no speed, and it's not going to be easy. But I'll tell you something. The Silly Key that ran here when he ran second Ocean Breeze would be tough in this race. I don't think his last race was that bad. Last race was dominated on the front end at Saratoga, and he didn't really get beaten that much by Sagamore Mischief and Gemography, and he's going to be a much, much bigger price because he doesn't have the sexy appeal of having an Irad Ortiz on him and those things. So I know he's dynamics compromised in here, but I don't mind taking a horse at a price that's dynamic compromised. So I'm going to take Silly Keo from time to time, runs races that can win this.
Yeah, he's going to have to throw back a little bit. I mean, he's just been kind
He's
of picking up the pieces. He does run well here at Aqueduct. He does like the surface. He's 0 for 12 this year, as you pointed out, 3 seconds and 2/3. And there is no better example to point out exactly what you're talking about with the wagering, that if Irad is a short price in there for a low percentage barn, this is a clear example of that he just takes the money because it's
lunacy, the way they're betting Irad's horses. Absolute sheer lunacy, the prices that horses he rides are. They just bet them like they assume they can't lose, and there's nothing, he can't make a horse run faster. He can only ride him. He rides incredibly well,
Sure.
as do a lot of guys around here.
Sure.
So, listen, I don't disagree. The 6 and 7 have a dynamic advantage. We'll take a break after the 6th race. Is that all right, Eddie? All right, race number 5. Thought this was a bit of a tricky race in here. You have gone to quick money.
Yeah, I like the effort at Pimlico. I think Rob Atras, now they claim the horse off of Linda Rice. You come off of that Saratoga effort. Now, Hydra did not really,
Hydra's random.
Yeah, Hydra's a bit random, but the second place finisher was Everyone Loves Linda, who did hang on and win that race yesterday. So I think the horse comes out of an okay race. Now, you had the Bug Boy aboard last time. You're going to tote 125. 7 pounds is, I don't look at the weight a ton, but 7 pounds is 7 pounds. So Quick Money, though, off of a win like that, I think that they found the right spot to be able to run in that optional 40. They get a nice victory. Now Rob Atras says, all right, Kendrick is going to be aboard. This horse is going to have some early speed. Maybe speed is carrying this afternoon. Has 2 wins here in 2023. Should be forwardly placed and could just run away from the field because I've seen this kind of pattern before.
Well, no. This horse is not faster than Lady Milagro. If Lady Milagro falls down at the start, Quick Money can wire the field. But assuming she keeps the rider and gets out of the gate, she's going to be in front. Lady Milagro is a rocket ship, an absolute rocket ship. There is no way the 7 can be in front of her unless Lady Milagro doesn't get out of the gate or the rider does something unbelievably ridiculous.
Half length off of a 21-3, though, on July 28th? Quick Money?
Okay. I said it yesterday. I'll say it again.
Here we go. I'm going to...
6.5 furlong races in Saratoga have
Okay.
an enormous run-up. It's very similar to the run-up at Churchill Downs at
Okay.
6 furlongs. If you notice the Churchill Downs 6 furlong first quarters are 21 and 21 and 1 with a lot of frequency because there's a huge run-up. There's a huge run-up because the gate, they have to break where the turn is. So they have to be pat before the turn. So there's a huge run-up. So you're going to see course. So 21 and 3 is really 22 and 1. Believe me, Lady Milagro is faster than Quick Money. It's not really even that close.
Okay.
I mean, Quick Money's not
How
slow.
much separation is there going to be between the two?
I don't know. I don't know how guys ride around here, but I know
Sure.
that all things being equal, there's absolutely nobody on earth that possibly could think that Lady Milagro in a fair break is not going to be in front of Quick Money.
Yeah, okay.
She's just faster. I'm not saying Quick Money can't
concede
win.
that. I can concede that.
I'll say something about Quick Money. If you like Quick Money, you're supposed to look at Rachel's Rock. I know she beat her that day, but I think Quick Money's going to have to deal with more speed. And Rachel's Rock's last race, she was down the rail, and I don't think the rail was the place to be in October 12th, and I don't think she ran badly in that race. I don't really trust either one of them. My problem with Quick Money is she's got a big figure at 5.5 furlongs as a speed on a speed track at Ellis Park. She runs her big figure for Rob Atras off the claim. Now, Rob's barn has been heating up, so maybe he's going to start winning again. But I kind of look at her overall, and I don't know how really good she is. And I think there are just some better horses in this race. I mean, Taming the Tigress, once again, is David Jacobson.
Big question mark.
We both got the horse second.
Big question
We'll
mark.
go back and take a horse look at the horse's last race. I mean, this horse, if you take away I don't know why they insisted on running this horse in the turf. The last 2 dirt figures are 88 and 84. This horse has got nothing but fast dirt figures. I don't trust David Jacobson. I don't know what you're going to get. But this horse might just be faster than these horses, right?
This is a horse that you want to pick on top. I kept looking at it. I said, okay, the horse is running to go to Del Mar. The horse is go. This is a horse that I wanted to play on top, but I can't confidently pick the horse on top.
I can't either.
When I get a 3-1 morning line, Castillo and Jacobson, they're going to team up. It seems like that pairing is happening. So it seems like it's his first call rider to take some of these mounts.
Well, because he has a
in these
relationship with Billy
situations.
Castle,
Sure.
who's Castillo's agent.
Yeah.
He's always ridden, and David Cohen rode for him. It's a consistency.
That 3rd place finish at the optional 80 at Del Mar, that seems like a very strong effort. The horse is going to ship over here, has been off since July. But I don't know what to make of the horse, and I have to look at the board, and it's just tough because in that 5th race, there are some horses that deserve to take some money. I think Rachel's Rock, off of that 3rd, beaten 2 lengths at the optional 80 here at Belmont to the Big A, that speaks volumes to Quick Money again, and I think that moves Quick Money up even more for me, that the horse is going to be at the 62.5 level. Pretty much handled Rachel's Rock just fine, and Rachel's Rock came back and ran a respectable race here over this.
And Rachel's Rock's going to be twice the price that she was. She
Yeah.
will be. I like You Look Cold. I don't believe that moisture in tracks is really the reason that horses do or don't run well. I think it's sealed tracks versus harrow tracks. I think a muddy harrow track is much closer to a fast harrow track than it is to a muddy sealed track.
Okay.
And if you go back to this race and the 2 races before it on fast harrowed racetracks, You Look Cold ran 85, 84, 90, and then suddenly on 2 sealed tracks, she ran figures in the mid-70s. Also against better horses. It was a big speed track last time. She's had excuses. Now, is it possible her form has fallen apart? Absolutely. On the other hand, she couldn't close in that track last time out. She caught a track where she was close to the pace. The race fell apart, and Sterling Silver, who's a stakes horse, who finished first in the Gallant Bloom and was disqualified in a somewhat controversial DQ. I'm hoping getting back to a fast surface can help her get back to her fast race. And if that happens, I think she's going to be very tough in this race.
Yeah, she's 5-2 on the morning line. She's going to get respect on the board. I need quick money to run away from the field. That's what I want.
Well, she's not going to run away from the field because she's not going to be the speed. But that's okay. We'll be on the air for this race, and I'll make fun of you before it, after it, and during it.
Love it.
Race number 6.
Looking forward to it.
Race number 6. I found race number 6 to be an excruciatingly difficult race, but please, enlighten us about Tap It Up.
Okay, so if we go to the outside runner here, and I go to Tap It Up, the wins by 3 lengths at the 30,000 non-2. So you get by that level, now we're in a protected spot. This horse is 2 1/4 lengths off of Miss San Gabriel, who's going to be, looks to be the controlling speed, unless...
She's the main speed because of her post. I think that Knight Saber can go here. We'll see how aggressive Trevor is.
I thought that Miss San Gabriel, I thought that that horse is going to run well. I think that she's going to be the controlling speed. I do think that Tap It Up being able to be within 2 lengths of her and have that more recent win is going to move Tap It Up just up enough to get the victory. I like Manny Franco taking the mount here. The outside draw, I think if he can get good enough position, I'm okay with it. Diamond Status, another horse that comes off of a decent second place finish in the last start. Tap It Up finished in front of Diamond Status when we take a look at that race back at Belmont.
We're going to watch those races,
second,
but don't let me get in your way here.
Yo, but because you're going to just completely say that Tap It Up
Well,
has no
there's no
chance.
way you can compare the race that Tap It Up was in last time. She was second to Miss San Gabriel because all she did was sit on the rail in that race and do no running, and Lady Jasmine at least chased outside.
Okay.
Now she has an outside post against a tougher field. I can understand liking Miss San Gabriel to get a piece because she's going to be forward in this race. I don't think they class up to these other horses, but we obviously have a different opinion, but that's what horse racing's about. I do think we need to talk about the race that Diamond Status ran because she did run well in the context of that race. I will not deny it. The horse that ran horribly is Miscreant. She has no chance off that effort, and frankly, Miss Christie's a little tough to take off it as well, though at least she did some running at the end. But the thing with this race, the first thing is you had to see the number 10 horse, Don't Mess With Tess, who was favored, got completely left in here. And getting completely left put her in a terrible spot. And she ends up, because of breaking 2+ slow, being 3 wide to 4 wide the whole way around the track. Irad being forced, and you see him making that big wide premature move. So while Miss Christie and Miscreant to me are horses I wouldn't bet a nickel on in a million years because all they did was pick up pieces in a race falling apart. I do think the Diamond Status did a lot of running in there because she was forward in there, and this race did fall apart. And I think Don't Mess With Tess. I know, I don't trust her. I get it. But she did lose to Stella Mars, who's better than these horses 2 races back. And then she's fallen off form, but at that time she was in better form. And she has a massive excuse last time. So I do think she's the horse to beat. I don't totally trust her. I don't love her. But I think she's the right horse. See, you went in a different direction away from that race, which is fine. I think if you go away from that race, you're supposed to look at 2 horses. You're supposed to look at Thundera, who overcame an outside post with a wide trip in her debut and then was thrown in against the Wolves in her next start and is in a more appropriate spot. And I do think that L.A. Fort has to be discussed. We'll go back to Churchill Downs to May. Now, L.A. Fort may have completely and totally lost her form. Ray Handel has awful numbers off the claim on the turf. He's 3 for 40. Actually, Ray is like 2 for 11 on the turf. He's actually 2 for 7 off the claim on the turf in routes. He's good. Excuse me, I apologize. Claiming off of Ian Wilkes, people are 3 for 47 on the turf. I know she's a sucker who likes to run. When I say that, a sucker horse, a horse who likes to run second. But she's got an entire bevy of races that are faster than these. And before people say only going longer, it's not true. Now, she was awful last time. And maybe she just can't run anymore. But you can't ignore the fact that she has back races that would make her very tough in this race.
Yeah, both of them are going to be a shorter price than the 10 Tap It Up.
Well,
Tossed Head at start the comment...
Because they both have a much better chance to win.
Well, according to the bettors, which is true, but Tossed Head at start for Don't Mess With Tess, that's one of those where you take a look at the comment, like there was more than just, did toss the head, but it cost her...
It took her completely out of the flow of the race.
And it made
her wide, middle move.
Yeah. Irad Ortiz Jr. is going to be aboard, so you're going to see that shorter price, 3-1. Maybe it comes down a little bit, but Tap It Up. If you're going to give me that 8-1 on a horse that just won by 3 lengths, is going to pick up Manny Franco, who is in competition to be the leading rider.
I'd love
here
to give
at
you
the
8-1 for about $8 million on Tap It Up.
8 to 1?
If I had $100 million, I would book $1 million on her at 8-1
99 million?
now.
99 million?
If I had $100 million, I didn't mind blowing the $8 million. I would give you $8 million to $1 million on her winning this race. But hey, that's what horse racing's all about. We have 5 races left, so stick around. We'll be right back after we hear from our friends at Saratoga Springwater.
For almost 150 years, the Saratoga name has been synonymous with the finest quality, sustainably sourced spring water available anywhere. Saratoga carries on the rich tradition of its forefathers by crafting each stunning blue glass bottle with the same attention to detail and care that has been its hallmark for generations. Visit SaratogaSpringwater.com today or ask for us by name at your local market or restaurant. Saratoga Spring Water. Make every day exquisite.
We're back, and it's going to get even more exciting because we've got 4 stakes to talk about. 4, right? 8? No, 3.
3.
I thought there were 4 stakes today. My counting is not the only. Everything's suffering. Race number 7. Wow, you've got redistricting third. Wow, I'm looking forward to this. I, on the other hand, am not going against redistricting, who I think is close to a cinch in this race. His first race was very, very exciting. He blew away some decent horses and blew them away quite easily. Now, Heard by Loverboy won in the dirt, the horse who won, but Flyright's okay. He just ran too far in his subsequent races and against better horses. He actually didn't run badly in the Belmont Derby, where he was 4 wide against a gold rail the entire time for a second-time starter. I think he is a layover in this race, and I will be very, very surprised if he loses. You, on the other hand, are taking a horse that couldn't beat him unless he doesn't get out of the gate and turns around and does a cartwheel.
Fair enough. Quality G. I was very against Quality G in the last start. I was very against the horse, and then the horse won. Yeah, last time.
Why were you against him last time?
Because he wasn't winning. He had those seconds and thirds. I had seen the horse run. I was in the booth watching the horse run, and he was just kind of running in spots, and he always looked like he was going to get to the winner's circle, and it didn't happen. Now in the last race, I was impressed off that effort. I liked
Miracle Mike?
The September 17th race, that effort. I liked it. I liked the move that he made. I felt like he was in that. He always seems to find a pretty good trip. I think that he always ends up in that stalking type.
He didn't stalk last time.
Just sit off of them. He's a little further back. But Manny rode a really nice race in that spot. He was a tepid favorite. I mean, you take a look at that field. It was a good-sized field, and he didn't take a ton of action. He ran a very similar race to what he's been running, and he was able to pull away in the late stages. Again, there's some recency here. I like the 4-year-old angle against some of these 3-year-olds because redistricting is going to be taking a lot of money off of 2 lifetime efforts. The connections obviously take a ton of action, and he can win, and he could win at a very short price. But I think as I kept looking through it, I just feel like at 8-1, again, it's Manny Franco. I like Manny over the surface. I like him here.
We're getting that impression here.
Yeah. And I get some value. It's Pletcher on a horse that just seems to be
not good enough to win.
I think he's good enough to win. I think he needs to sit that same type of trip that he does. And we'll just see if he can outrun the 5 and outrun some of the others here in the late stages. And I'm going to do it at 8 or 10 to 1.
My friend who owns
okay
Miracle Mike is texting me. He's mad. I just hurt his feelings.
Oh, there you go. See? They're on
no,
my
actually,
side.
he's making fun of you for picking this horse, saying he beat Miracle Mike.
I think you added that.
No, actually, I didn't. But I understand your second choice Shadowed is the wise guy horse. I totally get that.
Auguste Rodin is in the running lines.
Right, I know, but that was a long time ago.
I know it was, but there's some class there.
I understand. And listen, I watched his race 2 back, so I understand. He's not totally impossible. Yep. He's going to have to get a lot better to be competitive. There's 2 horses in this race that realistically, if you're trying to beat the favorite, more realistically at least, are the 10, Capture the Flag. I have a friend who was critical of Jose Ortiz's ride of him last time. I strongly disagree with him. The horse broke a bit slow, and I thought what Jose did was he took him to the inside in the second turn because he didn't want to swing wide. And instead of losing ground, yeah, he had to wait a little longer, but in saving ground, he helped him a lot. And from post 10, I just don't see him working at a trip good enough to win. But I do think Capture the Flag is a dangerous horse moving forward. But I think that the chief rival to the favorite in this race is very clearly Rambling Wreck. this is another example of a horse that they'll bet I rather tease in a situation. This horse was a complete throwout at a 1 3/8 last time out. He's not a distance horse.
Yep.
He's a mile and 16,
Okay.
7 furlong type horse. And his races 2 and 3 back are good enough. He also gets Lasix for the first time. He's, to me at least, the dangerous one if you're trying to beat redistricting, which I'm not doing. I'll have a small backup with Rambling Wreck, but I think redistrict's a very good horse, and I'll be surprised if he loses here.
All right.
Race number 8 as we get into the stakes portion of the card. It's a good race. What did we decide the name of the favorite is here?
Chiguera.
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 Do we know what that means?
We got the pronunciation part.
Do you want to give the name? Google it.
I got half an hour. I'm going to look
You
it up.
know, Chiguera is Chiguera.
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 Chiguera. Like
Whatever. The 6.
Chicago.
The
but
6 horse
Chiguera.
with Julian Leparoux, trained by Phil Bauer. She beat absolutely nobody in here, but boy, she was impressive doing it. And they've rightfully chosen this race as opposed to the Breeders' Cup Distaff. But I'll tell you something, Chris, if she's a horse, if she continues to run like this against better horses and wins this race, she could be a major player in the filly and mare division next year.
Yeah, that's the question mark, and it's going to be at a short price. So from a wagering standpoint, from a selection standpoint, I play against. But yeah, if she trounces, because if you're going to play against the favorite, I feel like you gotta throw her out, at least out of the top 3. We're looking for, we picked the same winner on top at least.
Well, we picked the same horse on top. Whether or not she ends up being the winner remains to be seen. I think Zagera is much the horse to beat in this race. We're going to get to your second choice in a minute, but we'll talk about a colt. And we both picked a colt on top, but go ahead.
Yeah, this effort, and we were talking about the wet track earlier, right? You were talking about wet sealed and talking about muddy tracks.
She ran a race.
It was a very wet day there in Pennsylvania, and
You
it
were
was
there.
a deeper track. I was there.
You didn't have to go to
But
Meadowlands
the way-
that night, as I told you.
I did not. I did not. I got that
Einsteined
text
that out
very
for
early
you.
in the morning. But you see her. She really got rolling late in here. I mean, she is starting to move, and that's pretty mischievous that she's chasing in between horses there. Ceiling Crusher, the speed was doing pretty well there towards the
Ceiling
later
Crusher's
end
a
of the
good
card,
horse.
and a very good horse from California that's taking some time off, and she'll come back as you noted. I think she's a Calbred, so she's going to have some options. But Occult has run very good races. I think she's going to. I thought that the Monmouth Oaks effort.
This is like a homer call by you because you won the Monmouth Oaks. I mean, if you couldn't go back to Monmouth, they wouldn't let you in the building if you didn't pick a colt after a big win at the Monmouth Oaks. Seriously, there'd be somebody at Monmouth writing this down. Chris disrespected the Monmouth Oaks winners.
It was the style in which she won. I mean, she opened up and she was gone. She's been right there with Pretty Mischievous, who's going to be your champion, right? I mean, you take a look at
not if
fillies.
Randomized wins the Breeders' Cup Distaff.
Okay.
I mean, yes, Randomized is probably 8-1 to win the Breeders' Cup Distaff, so
Yep.
she's an enormous favorite to do it. But I think if Randomized should win the Breeders' Cup Distaff. Not that I don't think that Pretty Mischievous is a deserving champion either way.
Yeah, would you say that Pretty Mischievous? I think it's fair to say that she's been kind of the measuring stick of
Well,
like the
except
top
I
class
think
of the.
There is a reasonable question whether or not her form has tailed off a little bit.
Fair.
I mean, maybe she's better going longer. I thought Kentucky Oaks was great. I thought Acorn was terrific.
Yep.
I'll say this, and it's interesting because I was talking to Chad Brown the day after the cotillion, and he said, it was the day after the week, he said, I'm going to take some of the blame for this. He said, Irad and I talked about the race a lot, and together they wanted, basically, and what Chad wanted to do was follow Pretty Mischievous, which I think is the right thought. Pretty Mischievous is a forwardly placed horse. She was coming out of a sprint. She was sitting right off the pace, a contested pace in the Kentucky Oaks. So the feeling was that Ceiling Crusher was going to go to the lead, and Pretty Mischievous would be sitting, three lengths off of it.
Right.
What happens is Pretty Mischievous gets shuffled out of the race, and as a result, a colt gets shuffled out of the race because she did have some trouble in that race. So a colt ends up farther back than she really wanted to be in there because of that situation. So it's just one of those sort of bad luck situations. It was the right idea in that situation because they didn't want to let Pretty Mischievous get away from them. You don't want to have too much to do, and they end up having too much to do to beat the horse in front.
Yeah.
They're good horses she lost to, and Zagera's going to have to run. And the other thing about Zagera is, isn't she going to have to deal with some speed? Don't you think? Undervalued asset, stretching out. Manny's not rating her. She's going.
Yeah, completely different race. I mean, you do see a different type of race from the off
better
of the sprint
horse,
races.
a better speed horse she's got to deal with.
Yes, and we get over a fast-made track here today, so those sloppy track efforts, take them from what
I mean,
you
as
will,
far
but-
as Chiguera, the 6 horse.
Yeah,
She's got to deal with undervalued asset and put her away. And in saying that, that's why I don't like the 7 at all, Defining Purpose.
Okay.
As we go to the race at Keeneland, when Defining Purpose has been effective, she's been able to stalk moderate paces and get the run of the races. Moderate paces set by overmatched horses.
Okay.
In this race to win, she's got to sit behind Zagera, whatever the heck her name is. Sit behind her, put her away, and then hold off the likes of a Colt and perhaps even Julia Shining, who actually ran a better race than she did here.
Yeah, she has the races in. She's got the races in her.
She got under very, very, very favorable circumstances. She's not stalking a bad speed here.
Yeah.
Not only is Undervalued Asset not a bad horse, who knows if she can stretch out or not, but Shajara is clearly good. So she's got to put her away and hold off the closers? Good luck.
Shagera's going to be such a short price in here, and we don't know how she stacks up against the best of her generation.
Her last race is extraordinarily good.
Visually, it is very.
She's not going to be a short price because they like to bet on horses that Julian Leparoux rides coming down. But they're betting her off a huge effort. They were going to run in the Breeders' Cup Distaff.
I know, but isn't this the race where we find out whether that's?
I agree.
This is the test for her.
I
and
think
if defining,
I'm not picking her on top.
Yeah, and defining purpose. If she goes back to some of the, if she gets the right trip and she's able to get a slice, I don't think she's going to win. I think a Colt's going to win, but I think if defining purpose can get into that exact and trifecta, something like that, and some of the minors, she can go back to these efforts and she can run quite well. She gets Junior Alvarado, and she's going to be 5-1.
I think at 5-1 she's an underlay. I think
I agree.
Zagera at 6-5 is a better bet than defining purpose at 5-1.
I agree.
Julia Shining
Yeah.
is a problem. I mean, running her in the Alabama is in the annals of history one of the craziest decisions ever. Todd Pletcher's a pretty smart guy. I'm going to guess that this was not a brainchild of his. I could be wrong. It doesn't seem like a Todd Pletcher type move to run her at 1.25 miles of a 5+ month layoff. They tried to get in the Oaks. She couldn't get in the Oaks. But the problem is, where the heck was she if she was an AE in the Kentucky Oaks? She could have run in the Black Eyed Susan. She could have run in the Acorn. She could have run in a whole heck of a lot of races, and she didn't run anywhere. And then they have this harebrained idea, because she's a Malathot, she won the Alabama, so therefore she's a 1.25 mile horse. No, actually, Malathot was better like 1.16 to 1.8 miles. She won the Alabama because she was a damn good horse. She's not a 1.25 mile horse. The notion that she had this pedigree, it's like that Curlin in the first race yesterday. It was that ridiculous favorite because all Curlins want to go long. Well, that horse doesn't. It's a sprint pedigree on the damn side. And the thing about Julia Shining is she wasn't a particularly good 2-year-old, but I thought she ran okay in her 2 races there. And Louis Saez rode her hard every race. Maybe she doesn't need to be ridden that way. Maybe they just want to sit back and make one run, but can she run anymore?
Yeah, and then they got her right. They got her right in February and April, and she seemed to be right in that right
then something
form.
Went wrong.
And then something went wrong, and she's got value. I mean, she's gonna.
Well, they're going to keep her and breed her, so it's not like they're selling her.
Correct.
She's going to stay with Stone Street, and they're going to breed her.
And I'm not saying that you're more careful in that sense, but she's obviously had some issues staying on the racetrack.
Run her
and
if she's
being able
not
to run
doing
those
well,
races.
and that's fine.
But they do come back in a grade 2 now, so she's got to be. We'll find. She came back in the Alabama, and now it's the layoff, and now she comes back in the Mother Goose. So she seems to be doing well enough to be able to run in this.
A big part of me wants her to run well. I like her as a horse. I like her pedigree. I like all those things, and I want her to run well. I'd hate to think that she's the horse we saw in the Alabama. We'll find out. I'm sure if she runs poorly today, they'll retire her, and they'll breed her next year.
Yeah. And finishing behind randomized, you made the case. So
well,
we'll
she got beaten 57 lengths.
I know, but I'm saying if the horse
is
is finishing behind, it says eased.
But it's 57 lengths. Why? Wasn't there a time when that would have been like an X, like a dash, and been eased?
Anyway, when would that have been?
Way back when I had hair, and I was less fat.
Oh, come on.
Race number 9.
Race 9.
Spirit Prince is going to be not going to be 8-5. I know there's a couple scratches. I don't know what price where she's going to be 3-5, or he's going to be 3-5. It's the Awad. Is the Awad before your time?
Yeah.
Trained by the mighty Dave Donk. Well, Twirling Point was 7-2 second choice. So yeah, he's going to be under even money. I mean, I know it's a stake and he's a maiden, but I mean, the race kind of fell apart last time. I thought he ran well in this race. I mean, he could be 1-2 in this race.
Yeah, I was playing against as much as I could, and then my pick scratched. But the horse has just run better races than the other ones. Yeah, he's just run better races than the other ones. I mean, yes, he hasn't gotten to the winner's circle, but you're taking a look at the Pilgrim, the With Anticipation. This horse has kept good company, and now the 2-year-old is going to find the right field. I think that this horse is going to is going to win at a short price
Yes,
now. I mean,
I think he is too, even though I picked him second.
I try to make a case for some of these horses, maybe move to gold, can improve off of that debut effort. Is that horse going to improve enough? I don't know. I end up Dancing Mischief. What do I have that horse picked? Second? Yeah. I mean, the win by 7 lengths was over a muddy, taken off the turf event, and the horse has just been kind of okay on the grass, and is going to be 10-1 on the morning line. Maybe we get somewhere to that price. It's going to have to run a huge number. The horse has just not been running the numbers that Spirit Prince has been running. Tropenhagen would have to get back to that debut effort.
Well, he's helped by the scratch of the 5.
I
He took
called.
another speed out of the race.
Yeah,
but the 8's going to be stalking, going to be sitting behind him, and the 8's a better horse.
Yeah.
So it's sort of hard to like him. Move to Gold. This is one of the reasons that people that talk about the eye test get buried at the racetrack. It was a very visually impressive race by him. He broke slowly. He made a big wide move. The problem was it was an awful race.
Yep.
Now, it was Kentucky Downs, so maybe he'll run better on a real racetrack.
Yep.
But on the surface thing, it was just a pathetic race that he was coming out of. So he ran very well in a pathetic race, but as somebody I know used to say, there's no trips in slow races. The 1 in 8 is the only horse that I can make a case to bet against the 8 with. And I'm not dying to bet against the 8. But this horse, now, listen, it's like you talked about that horse earlier and you said he ran behind
Auguste Rodin, yeah.
Right. Obviously, that was not the Auguste Rodin that he became later in his life.
Okay.
The horse who finished 3rd behind this horse, and this is just in July, so it wasn't that much later. It's not like Auguste Rodin, who's better going longer anyway. Vespertilo or whatever, won a Group 2 and was second in a very good Group 1 in his next start. So this horse finished almost over 2 lengths ahead of a horse that's a legitimately graded stakes, top graded stakes horse as a 2-year-old over in Europe. Those horses would annihilate these kind of horses. Now, watching the race, I thought he broke extremely well. He got a good trip in there. People that are wondering how you watch them, it's actually not that hard. All of the European races, all these tracks are covered by NYRA-Bets. They're all in the video replays. If you go to Racing Post, you just use the search function and you put in a horse's name and you can get its races. You go to the race it ran and you can figure out which race it was that day because you just click back. It says, it'll say 2:30. So you click back and then it says 1:55. 1:30. You find out what race it was, and you go to the replays and watch it. I think this horse ran well in that race to finish second. I don't think the horse that beat him is an Aidan O'Brien horse. He didn't run particularly well in some group races after that, but he beat a good horse. And I'm going to give him a little bit of a sniff to try to beat the favorite. I'm not against him. I just wanted a different face here at a little bit better price. The rest of them, you can have them.
And the No Nay Nevers can run. No Nay Never on top as the sire on the
a lot
turf
of sprints,
horses.
but a lot of routes too. So I'm not overly worried. So
Toted
I'll take a shot.
133. Is going to tote 118. You take off the 15 pounds. I like the 1. I like the 1 as a pick. I also like the price. I think the price is going to be second choice, third choice.
I think the 1 should be second choice in this race simply because he's the stranger in a race where everybody that you know about is not good enough to win unless they just happen to go crazy for the Chad Brown horse, but it doesn't have IRAD, so you probably won't get that situation. Okay. Race number 10, the 49er. Do you know how it becomes the 49er? This race is named for 49er?
How it becomes the 49er?
Yeah.
No.
It was the Kelso.
Okay.
We changed the Forbidden Apple to the Kelso because we wanted Christophe Clement to have something else to complain about.
Okay.
Because he doesn't have enough things to complain about. And then, so we renamed the Kelso after the horse that won the first running of the NYRA Mile, which became the Cigar Mile.
Oh.
And I'm assuming that was the genesis of it.
I need to write a lot of these things down.
49er was some racehorse. I saw him at Claiborne when he had the paddock across from Seeking the Gold in 1994. I think that was his last year there. Easy Goer was still there. Mr. P was still alive. Danzig was still around. Believe It was there.
If I asked you to name the top 5 performances you've ever seen in New York, would you be able,
No.
you couldn't do it right away?
No, because I'd leave out ones that were really good. I mean, Slews.
You would go on
Slews
too much
lost
of a
the
journey.
Gold Cup is up there, obviously. I think Ghost Zappers Vosburg is up there as well, but let's get with the last 8 minutes we have on today's show.
We have plenty of time.
No, we don't. Anyway, let's talk about Ever So Mischievous, who's going to vie for favoritism with Accretive. I don't think this is a Zagera type thing because I don't think he's run as well as Zagera ran, but he is going to get a severe class test as well in here. And he's the one that I'm going to try to beat in this sequence. He's a favorite I don't like.
Absolutely playing against. I'm completely against. I don't even think I have in my top 4.
Clever.
Horse has got speed. This is a nice effort at Churchill Downs, but these are just different horses. And this horse has been bet like a good thing he's never not been favored.
Well, Fort Peck, we beat 2 back is okay. He's a Peter Brand horse that came back with a couple of very good
But we've
efforts.
got Cody's Wish in the running lines.
I'm not arguing. I'm against him as well. I'm not as
We
against
got
him
the
as
same
you.
horse. I didn't think you would pick Dark Dito, but
Okay, well, I did. But Accretive's the horse to beat, in my opinion. We'll take a look at his last race. Now, to
Agreed.
be fair, he had the run of the race last time. I mean, it was a moderate pace. He was forward. Cody's Wish didn't break. He had to rush up in the middle of the move, but he's still Cody's Wish.
Yep.
And this horse was second to Gunite in his second start with a 101 buyer. He's a very good horse, and I think he's the horse to beat here.
yeah. What else can you say? I mean, was it an okay effort from Cody's Wish, or was it just a bang-up effort by Accretive? You can make the case
Accretive ran
either
the same
way.
figure he sort of
but
runs every time.
Yeah, he's run consistently. He's been good at this one-turn type of approach. He's got that 1 mile race coming in here. He's going to be vying for favoritism. He's going to be the favorite. Ever So Mischievous, 5-2.
It's close.
Yeah,
It's close.
It's close. We'll see how short a price they
Probably
are.
Irad makes him the favorite.
And so, yeah, we've
No.
seen that trend, yeah. Film Star, I think, plays into the pace scenario of the race, and I think that kind
As
of
does
becomes an
Swift Sure.
istering part to the 2 and the 3. Swift Sure's got some speed, and that's why we end up on the 5.
But to be fair with Film Star, he stalked last time, and he still ran an extremely good race. So I don't want to dismiss him as a horse that can't stalk in this race. I think Film Star is a big player in here, and I don't think he's going to be 3-1. I think Ever So Mischievous and Accretive are going to separate themselves a little bit more. Now, maybe I'm wrong. And maybe he'll be 4-1. I'm not saying he's going to be a big price. I'm scared of Film Star in here. Well, you are. You've got him second.
Yeah, I like Film Star. I think Film Star has been a horse that's been... He's been favored in some of those starts, but he's actually been surprising me in those starts, too. I think that he continues to pass some of those different types of fields that he faces where I say, maybe today's not the day for Film Star. Maybe he can get beat in this spot.
He's gotten
and
very
he doesn't.
soft
And
trips
he-
when he's been successful, though.
Yeah, yeah.
And he's not going to get one today. Here's Dr. Ardito's win 2 back before floundering the slop last time. Why did you pick him?
I think that he gets the right trip. This horse also loves the surface. I mean, this horse is 5 for 6 at this distance, has never been out of the exact, 5 for 6 at Aqueduct, 5 for 7 at the distance. He's never been out of the exacta when he's run here over this
At short
surface.
prices every time,
And
though, to be fair.
And he's going to be a price here today. He's going to get the right trip. There's a guy named Manny Franco riding him, so it seems like I like
Manny,
that.
if I were you, I'd be looking for Chris. He could be stalking you next.
He
so I'm
continues
warning you, Manny.
stalking me next. But he's always he's on
Take a look
nothing
at
but
him.
6
You
to
start
1 and
seeing
8
this
to
guy
1
following you
shows.
around the supermarket.
He's been nothing but.
I think he's going to get pace to run at too. I thought he beat
Absolutely.
the track a little bit too back when he won. I thought it was a little bit kind inside speed runners, albeit the horse was a speed, doesn't want to get a mile, and I think he's a danger at a square price to pick it up. I like him in Accretive. I'm with you, though I respect Film Star. Race number 11 in the 3 minutes we have remaining. Let's start out and show the turnbacks, Riviere and LeBeau. I thought they kind of had the run of the race in here. The inside was the place to be. LeBeau was, they both basically saved ground for a bit of the race. Riviere got to the rail for all of it. The horse that beat him is a very promising horse who also saved ground before angling out to make that move from dead last. The thing is, Riviere ran super first time out, going 6 furlongs, so we know he can run well on the turf. Got left that day, rushed up, was wide. You wanted to be inside. Christophe Clement is good with turnbacks with LeBeau. I think these are the 2 horses to beat in this race. I don't know where you went, but I think they're the ones to beat.
All right, that's fair. I went with
We're going to
Karen's
drop the
Broomstick.
last replay, Eddie.
I went
You
with
don't
Karen's
mind. We'll
Broomstick.
drop wish list.
I went with the 9. I think that she's a turf horse. I think the 4-year-old filly, it took her some time, and I think that just a very subpar effort on the dirt where she was heavily favored in that spot, just took action because I think of the connections. And now she gets on turf, and I think the first time turf, and if you're going to give me Arad Ortiz Jr. with Chad Brown and teaming up at 6 to 1, I like that to close things out.
Okay, I think it's a very tough race to take a horse like that who probably can't really run.
Okay.
There is more turf pedigree, though, than dirt pedigree. I won't disagree. I don't think wish list's impossible. I do want to talk about the race on September 21st. Material Witness is not impossible. Rob Ashbar has been heating up since she ran. He was very cold since then. She certainly can win this race. I think Catskill Humor is wide can win the race. I also think Oolong High, it was a mistake to decide to rate this horse last time. I can't imagine that Mark Hennig's going to tell Katie Davis to do anything but go to the front. I don't know if this horse can get 6 furlongs, but I think you're going to see her more forward today, and you'll see a better effort. I want Nix out of that race. Nix was coming off of an 11-month layoff, ran the best race she's ever run, turning back onto the turf. And I watched that race, and I know she saved ground. She was blind switched in the stretch. But to me, she looked like a horse that badly needed a race off a layoff, and she would run much better in her second time off a layoff. So I'm going to try Nix. But she's the one I want out of that race. I'm going to use her with the 1 and 4.
Yeah, and if you like to play connections, I mean, these are top connections that we're taking a look at, and it looks like they're going to be numbers on the board. So if that's the kind of the way you play there when you get through the day, and then
Wish List is not terrible either, by the way. She didn't run that badly in a race, but she is coming off a year-plus layoff for John Terranova, who won one of the greatest photos in the history of racing yesterday when that 8-horse won the Bob.
Oh, man.
To embarrass our friend Rajiv Mirage. Anyway, Rajiv, speaking of Rajiv, he'll be joining us, Chris and I, on air for 2.5 glorious hours right after this show. Head over to NYRA Bets as we sprint to the finish, because I don't want to hand it to the track announcer late, because I don't like to be rude to track announcers, Chris.
never?
Never, well, not never, but
There
it
you go.
depends. Frank Miramati's an exception. Head over to NYRA Bets if you're not a member. Use the promo code. It's nyrabets.com. Cup 25, $25 free bet on top of matching up to $200 of your initial deposit. Middle pick 4, races 2, something, and 8 of our 11 race card. Got 3 pick 5s as well. Mandatory payout in that middle pick 5. No carryovers in that middle pick 5. We have $100 each on Belmont at the Big A, Aqueduct, the penultimate day, the ultimate day at Keeneland, their closing day, and Horseshoe Indy. I have no idea what their meet does. You'll earn $25, win, lose, or draw if you bet 100 or more each of those 3 tracks. We have shows today. Shows 12 to 5:30 at FS2, covering all the action, the 11-race stakes-laden card today, and then from 9 to midnight, we know what Chris will be doing.
I'm watching.
No Meadowlands left to call. How many cards did they have to cancel at the Meadowlands?
I think we ran half. I think it was 5. I think
Very
it was 5
annoying.
minutes.
It always happens. It's really, because
It's
obviously they
tough.
can't, they have to cancel because they won't run. They're not going to run the Stone Dust for the,
Well, we can't move into the main track.
right.
Yeah. Not.
I miss the heyday of the Meadowlands.
And
I
then the
spent
paddock is on the backside?
I haven't been to the new Meadowlands. I got to get over there next year.
Let's go.
I've never been. I've spent
You and I
hundreds,
did-
I probably spent 400 days of my life at the old Meadowlands back in the day, maybe 500.
The directions on your phone, it'll still send you to that old location.
I heard you had a parking issue. We're done. Johnny I's going up next with the reprise scratches and changes. But don't worry, stick around. He and I and Rajiv will be kicking off the show with the Mig in the paddock before Maggie relieves him. Everybody's here. Have a great day.
For almost 150 years, the Saratoga name has been synonymous with the finest quality, sustainably sourced spring water available anywhere. Saratoga carries on the rich tradition of its forefathers by crafting each stunning blue glass bottle with the same attention to detail and care that has been its hallmark for generations. Visit SaratogaSpringwater.com today or ask for us by name at your local market or restaurant. Saratoga Spring Water. Make every day exquisite.